Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Training Room. This is your host, Haley Herdman. I'm a former Division I basketball player and current mental health therapist.
And I am Naomi Yim, also a former Division I basketball player and a current real estate investor with a passion for athlete mental health.
Throughout our time as collegiate athletes, Naomi and I struggled with our emotional well-being, and we know from this experience how neglected the mental aspect of sports can be, which is why we created this podcast, to foster a safe space for other athletes to open up about their own experiences.
Whether you are an athlete, coach, parent, or anyone with an athlete in their circle, we hope you can gain some insight from our episodes.
Now, let's get into it. Welcome to the Mental Training Room. Elite athletes know performance isn't just about what you do in the game. It's about how you prepare and how you recover. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Defend USA. If you want to stay in peak shape, you can't afford to ignore the power of recovery. That's where Defend USA comes in. Trusted by the NBA, WNBA, MLB, NCAA, and beyond, Defend USA's compression gear is designed to help you train harder, recover faster, and perform at your best. Their military-grade compression technology boosts circulation, reduces muscle fatigue, and helps prevent injury, so you can push limits without breaking down. That's why the best athletes don't just train hard, they recover smarter. Level up your recovery, level up your game. Check out Defend USA at dfndusa.com and at dfndusa on Instagram, and get the gear trusted by the pros. Because true champions don't just train hard, they recover harder. So before we get into our episode today, I just want to give everyone a little background as to who Morgan DeBoard is. Morgan is a former teammate of mine for a year, a lifelong friend, but a little more into Morgan's sport history. So Morgan is a softball player. She played at Loyola Marymount, graduated in 2023 with her degree in health and human sciences. But within that time, she also spent a year on the basketball team, which is how our paths crossed. And so awesome. We'll get into that soon. At LMU, Morgan had several all-conference team honors, multiple WCC Player of the Week honors. I think it says you started almost every game in your career except 2 games, which is amazing. Just shows what a phenomenal athlete you are. You then transferred to Minnesota for your 5th year, where you got all Big Ten conference honoree, Big Ten all defensive team, 2nd leading hitter at Minnesota, and you ranked 3rd on the team with 52 hits, and also graduated with your master's in sports management. So such a successful sports career, but above all, and what I really got to know Morgan for and love her for was the amazing teammate that she was and the amazing person that she is. Morgan and I haven't really spoken in a few years since left LMU in 2023. So lots to catch up on, lots to talk about this episode.
Wow, you know more about me than I think I know about myself.
I know it's always weird to hear it in a list, right?
I'm like, wait, yeah, cool, yeah.
Well, we like to start off the episodes with something good that has happened to you recently or anything that you're looking forward to. So can you start us off with some positive news?
Positive news. Well, this is actually something that's exciting that's about to happen. And I just thought of this actually not too long ago. This will be my first Easter at home in the last 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy to think about, but I haven't been home for Easter because I'm always playing softball. So it's definitely, since I've been back home, I've moved back home and I'm in Oregon, just spending more time with my family is something that's been amazing. And I haven't gotten that recently. So
I love that. Yeah. It really is such a transition. And I feel like it can be different for athletes too, of coming home after graduating and after playing your sport, because family time is very limited. The home time in general is very limited depending on the sport that you play, because a lot of the times you can't go home during breaks, or you're there for a couple days and it feels rushed and you still have to train. So I love that for you. And I know your family's super important to you as well. Yeah. So just getting that time in is super crucial. Yeah. And I'm just realizing I forgot to mention that now you are a professional softball player. And that should be ding, ding, ding. That's why wasn't that the first thing I said? What has that been like for you? And can you kind of go into the process of your decision to play pro after college and what the draft process is like and a little bit into the league?
Yeah, so it definitely wasn't something that I thought about when I was in college. People always mentioned it, like, oh, what about playing pro? You could go play pro. And I was just like, I don't know. I think like it wasn't something I put myself out there to be like, yes, I'm going to do this. So I am very thankful. I kind of got a very lucky opportunity. I got a phone call on a Saturday, like, hey, we need another outfielder for this season and we think you'd be a great fit. Do you want to do it? And I was just like, oh my gosh, of course. Like, how can I say no? So I said yes to that. And they're like, okay, so we need you here on Monday. I was like, I had just gotten back from Minnesota. It was like 3 days. And I was like, I don't even have my softball stuff here. It's like being shipped back. But just since then, like that opportunity was amazing. And then about the league a little. So it's called Athletes Unlimited. This last season, it was a little bit of a non-traditional style league where we get redrafted on a new team every week. So it was the same, it was the same 60 girls, but every week it would be a redraft. So it was kind of cool. You got to play with a bunch of different people, got to play different positions, but definitely more non-traditional, which was a change from college when you're spending 9 months with the same girls, the same team. You're getting to know each other super well. So it was definitely a really cool experience.
Yeah, that is really interesting about the redrafting of it all. And I know that they have a women's basketball pro league too. So
Yeah.
and it gives it more of kind of like pickup vibes almost. Where it's
Yeah.
like you just go into the park to play or the gym or whatever it is. But that's such a fun way to meet different people and expand your circle and connections.
Yeah,
So,
it was
okay,
cool.
cool. So you did that for the last year, like literally right after you graduated.
It was like a 3.5 month season.
Okay.
So it was like May to September. And then since then I've just been training in the off season. But yeah.
Yeah. And where is the league located?
So it's based out of Chicago, Illinois, but the first month we were at Wichita State University playing for like a preseason type thing. And then we went to Chicago for the next 2 months.
Cool. How
Yeah.
has it been training now in the off season for pro versus what it felt like training in the off season maybe for college?
Yeah, it has been a very different transition, right? In college, like you're forced to go to lift, you're
Yeah.
forced to go to practice, you have a whole schedule set for you. Being home and being by myself and not having like another teammate like around, it's been a bit of a transition. It takes a lot more motivation for me to want to train every day. And then also having to like ask people, hey, can you front toss to me today? Hey, can you hit balls to me? It's definitely helped me like grow my circle a little bit of being like having to ask people for help, but
Yeah.
it's been good. It's been a good transition.
And you're working on top of that, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm working full time.
Yeah. So professional athlete and working full time. I remember my friend in Australia when I went to visit her a couple years ago, playing professionally there is sounds maybe like it's the same as a league similar to what you're in, but they would do the same of like they're working full time and then they go and they have practices and games and playing professionally is like a side gig, which was really interesting to observe that. But would you say that's kind of similar to the experience you're having right now?
Yeah, 100%. So the reason why we're also kind of just playing the summer is because we have to have full-time jobs
Right.
outside of season.
Yeah.
We play in the summer, and then a lot of the girls who play also coach in college. So they try to avoid the professional season with the college season. So that's kind of the main thing. But yeah, definitely like as the game grows and is expanding in years to come, we're hoping it's more of a long-term, you don't need a second job type thing. But that obviously takes time and commitment and
Yeah.
growth.
And I bet that was such a transition too, being in college. Obviously, the sport is your full-time job. Like that's what takes up your mental capacity. But now to go through a full work day and then have to do workouts on top of that, that's what has that been like for you?
Yeah. I guess like I try to think of it as like my work when I was transitioning back to like normal work style, right? I'm trying to think of my work almost as like my schooling in a way. Like this is your school, you know? But it's not ideal, that's for sure. I'd rather just be able to play softball all day every day and that's it.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a really good way to look at it, as like you are used to being a student, having that also as a full-time job, but now I don't know, I just feel like school is different because it's more sporadic.
Yeah, it's like broken up or like in
Yeah.
between. Yeah, it works like 8 hours
Right.
chunk.
Gosh, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all really cool. I love hearing everything that you're doing now and how you've taken your game to the next level, because I think it absolutely belongs there and that league is so lucky to have you. But I kind of want to get into a little bit about what your experience was like as a Division 1 athlete. Just now we were talking about the mental toll that being a professional athlete and having a full-time job affects you, but how do you feel like being a Division 1 athlete affected you mentally?
Yeah, it is mentally and physically draining, right? It definitely takes like special humans to be able to do it all every day, but mentally like it takes a toll on you and you have to realize that you have to like time manage yourself. You have to make sure your school is getting done. Education obviously comes first, then your sport, but also like crucially your mental health is like the number one thing that's super important. So there are days, obviously, when you're like, man, I hate this. Why am I doing this to myself? I mean, you
Yes.
know that too. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, why am I putting myself through this? But in the end, it's so rewarding. And just having what I love about playing team sports in college is you have so many other girls. You have like 20 something, well, softball's like 20 other girls who are pretty much in the same boat as you. So you can like talk to them about your struggles and it's just being able to bounce off of each other and the people around you. Cause being like a D1 athlete, it's hard, but you have such a big support system. I think I started to realize that as my later years in college, like, wow, I have all these people who want to help me succeed and strive. So just being able to bounce off of other people is super important.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to note, because I feel like when it gets too much mentally, people tend to go internal. And then it's like, this is only happening to me. It's my struggles. No one else can relate. But you are so right in saying, no, even if other people aren't talking about it, they're probably facing it too. And if not, then they can also offer you like that different perspective of like how they're getting through it, how they're dealing with the pressures that come on a daily basis. And yeah, it really is like, I think so. I believe it's Duke women's basketball. I just saw on Instagram, like they call themselves the sisterhood. And I think that's so cute, because a lot of times like people, they refer to like their team or whatever it is, like we're family, we're family. And yes, but I don't think I've ever viewed a teammate or team environment as family. So I think the sisterhood is just so cool. And it also is, when I read that, I was like, oh, that's really empowering too, because it really plays into that aspect of community. And I don't know, when I think of sisterhood, I think of like building other people up, building those around you up, empowering everyone. So that was just like a cool little thing I saw on Instagram, but reminded me of what you were just saying.
Yes, I love that. Sisterhood. That's
I
so
know,
true.
isn't that cute?
That is cute.
Okay, but with all of that you just said, with the pressures and the intense schedule, the time management, all of that stuff, you were asked to join the basketball team during COVID, and you said yes, which is so cool. And something that a lot of, I mean, like you said, it takes a special human to be a Division 1 athlete. It takes an even more special human to be a dual sport Division 1 athlete. So what went into your mindset when deciding to do that? When you were asked, what was going through your mind? Just kind of walk us through that time of your athletic career.
Yeah. So obviously the first thing that like went through my head was I need to like talk to my family, right? I need to talk to my friends, see what they think. And everybody that I talked to about it was so supportive. That definitely I know that it definitely helped my decision, like, easier, and something that joining the basketball team, like, the risks or I guess the downsides that came with it was it was in the middle of COVID, so I couldn't go home for Thanksgiving, and I couldn't go home for Christmas, like, 2 holidays that I was always able to go home for with my sport, so that was definitely hard, but everybody surrounding me was super like, "Yes, you should do it. This is an amazing opportunity." And obviously, I was worried about my softball career because we were in a weird transition in softball where we were getting a new head coach, a whole new coaching staff. And I was like, there's no way she's going to say yes to this, right? But she like, my head coach at softball, she was like, "Yes, go for it. That is amazing. Please do it." But obviously when softball season hits, that was my priority. And softball was my priority during like the time. Being able to say yes to that during like to go play basketball was a crazy time. And I remember it was super unexpected. Like I knew my head coach for softball had told me like the basketball coach is going to reach out to you. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember laying in bed, I think it was a Saturday morning. She calls me and she's like, "Hey, how are you feeling about it?" I'm like, "Great. Yes, I'm in." She's like, "Okay, we have practice in 2 hours. Do you want to come watch?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, what? Like, it was crazy. And then that day they were like, "Here's your gear. Here's your stuff." My first practice was on Monday and the first game was on Wednesday at USC.
Oh, was that the game? Wow.
Yeah, and there was no fans. We were like sitting on the baseline, like spread
Yeah.
out our bench. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was such a wild time. And I remember on the back end of things, one of my friends on the water polo team was like, "Hey, your coach is asking if we want to join the basketball team." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And mind you, during the time for me, I didn't play a lot at all really during especially my 3 years freshman through junior year. And I remember like I had just having a conversation with my coach about how, there were people that were opting out on the team. There was injuries, so we had a really small squad, and I was like, "Okay, cool. This is my time like to, let my hard work show. Like I'm finally going to get the opportunity." I felt ready, and I like was talking to my coach about how can I be there for the team? How can I help? Whatever. And she's like, "You're not going to play." Like, and we have like 6 players. I'm like,
Yeah, you had
"How?
6 players.
Like, how am I not going to play?"
Girl,
And then,
don't tell me that.
yeah, like, okay, cool. Honestly, though, they probably would have played with anyways. But then I hear like, "We're looking for new players." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like, I'm on the team. I've been on the team for 3 years, and I was just told I'm not going to play when we have 6 players still.
Mhm.
And they're going out looking for athletes from other sports. And I'm like, make it make sense, please. It all comes around, obviously, so grateful that it happened because I got to become friends with you.
Woohoo!
But at the time, you were saying like you were like shocked and, it's happening in 2 days. And I'm over here like, what? Like, just none of it made sense.
Yeah, I remember that was one of my biggest fears, like, joining the team like, you guys have been practicing together for months, and then
Yeah.
this girl from another sport who doesn't even play college basketball is just gonna be, like, walking, be like, "Hey, guys, I'm on the team." My biggest fear was everyone was gonna look at me and be like, "Girl, you don't belong here." Like, get away." But you guys were so welcoming, like, you especially, like, open arms. I felt like I was, like, part of the squad right away. It was really nice to just feel like, "Okay, yeah, I can be myself," and you guys nobody expected anything from me. It was great. It was like, "You miss a layup? Oh, you're good, you're good." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
I'm so glad you felt that way because I know a lot of us were going through our own stuff, and it's hard to identify it in the moment until you are out of it and then look back and realize like, "Oh yeah, I was down bad and probably not my best self." So I definitely felt that a lot of times during college and COVID specifically. So I'm glad that that maybe didn't come off.
It really didn't. I felt so
Okay,
welcome.
good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So I don't think I actually ever asked you this though. Was that the first, because you obviously played basketball before
Yeah.
in high school. So was that the first time, and this was your sophomore year of college, was that the first time that you like picked up a ball since high school?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I had, like, been in the rec center a couple times
Yeah.
just, like, shooting around with my friends, but yes, that was the first time I'd picked it up in, like, 2 years.
Oh my gosh. And what was it like for you the first time, like first practice, hopping in the drill? What was going through your mind? What were you feeling?
Yeah, well, I remember we had to run, of course, the practice I was there, we had to run suicides. It was like that drill where you shoot free throws, you miss your free throw, you run a suicide.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, I remember like, I was dying of breath. I was like not in basketball shape. The coach had told me at one point, she's like, "If you don't make the time, like we won't make the team do it again." And I'm thinking, "No, no,
Well,
no, no.
thank
I
God.
am not that athlete. I am not that athlete. Like I am not gonna miss the time. Like I would be
Yeah.
throwing up. Like I don't care." But I just remember the first practice, I was so winded and I was like, "I am not in basketball shape," but we pushed through. We made it work.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us weren't in basketball shape and we played basketball. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it was you were feeling because we have a few of the same conditioning tests, but it still is so different, the shape that you have to be in for softball versus basketball. And, if it was maybe like a basketball player joining the soccer team, like maybe that would have been a little more congruent, but
Yeah.
I don't think there could be two more opposite sports.
No, we run 60 feet at a time.
Yeah. Well, which is probably why you were able to do it though, because I know a lot of people in high school play those two different sports because of the seasons.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's a huge part of why you were able to do that, which is awesome. I forget because that time of life was kind of a blur, but did you ever get in a game?
Yeah, but I don't think I ever touched the ball.
Okay. Did
It was
I
like
get in a game? I don't even remember. Were we in together?
I went in the USC game.
Okay, so then yeah, I know
Yeah.
I was in that game for sure.
Yeah, it was like the last couple seconds
Okay.
probably, but yeah, I
Yeah.
went in. There was one game I went in because they needed me to foul someone. They were
Mm.
like, "Hey, yeah, we need a foul, go foul." I was like, "Okay." Like, we were in foul trouble, we had 6 players.
To be honest, Morgan, you probably played more minutes than I did. Like, in that 1 year, I genuinely don't remember anything from that year, so
If our coach would've ever told me, like, to go in before you, I would've been like, "No, I quit."
that's a real one. That's
Sorry,
very
try
real.
again.
This episode is sponsored by PhysioWorks Physical Therapy. Sports aren't just about skill, it's about strength. And I'm not just talking about physical strength. Athletes train their bodies, push their limits, and build muscle to perform at their best. But what happens when injury strikes, or when movement just doesn't feel right? That's where PhysioWorks Physical Therapy comes in. PhysioWorks isn't just about recovery, it's about unlocking your full potential. Their expert team helps you rebuild strength, improve mobility, and prevent future injuries so you can get back to doing what you love. Because strong muscles create strong athletes. At PhysioWorks Physical Therapy in Redondo Beach, California, they understand that true performance is both physical and mental. Because a strong body fuels a strong mind. And when both are in sync, that's when you truly win. Well, I love it. I'm so grateful that that happened and that we were able to be teammates for a short amount of time. But I honestly learned so much from you, just the way that you always carried yourself, the way that you, in a good way, because I feel like obviously being an advocate for mental health, a saying a lot of the times that mental health advocates don't like is like put your head down and work. But in a way, I feel like you have adapted that in a non-toxic way. Like you are still able to be in touch with yourself and with your emotions and everything that you're going through. It seems, I guess a better way to put it is it seemed like you had a lot of great coping skills and were able to not really let anything else kind of bother you, like really put those horse blinders on and like have a good time. And I know one of the things that you're really known for is like you're always smiling. And it's really, it honestly is so true. And I don't know if you even like do it on purpose now, but like every photo that you post on Instagram, you have like the biggest, most beautiful smile ever. And it genuinely is contagious. Like I see those posts and I love it and I smile looking at them. But what do you feel? Well, first of all, I want to ask you, do you feel like the observations that I just shared with you, do you feel that to be true for yourself? Because I know a lot of the times people can say things and perceive things differently than how it actually might feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Everything you said. I love the way you worded it. Like, put your head down and work. Like, that's true. It in times can sound like a negative thing, but you're right. The way like I perceive it or the way I like work through my day to day, like it's true. I have like a positive, like good coping mechanisms to work in that sense. And then it's funny that you say I'm always smiling because everybody tells me this, right? Everybody, you're always smiling. You're so smiley. And I don't realize it when I'm playing. Like, it's just the way I am, I guess, or that whatever I do, like success and failure, I'm always smiling and laughing. But when I look at photos or when I watch film, I'm like, man, why? I'm standing in the box. Why am I laughing? But I think it's just kind of the way I focus, you know? So,
Yeah. Is
yeah.
that something that people had told you before college, or was that something you feel like you adapted more to while being a Division I athlete?
It definitely was a before college thing. I remember in high school too, people always said it. I think it was more like known in college, so just like being able to broadcast more, having more fans, that definitely helped. But yeah, my mom said ever since I was a little girl, I was always smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I mean, it's a great trait to have. Do you feel like people saying that to you, does that ever get to you? And does that ever make you feel like, if you are struggling, you can't speak out about it?
Yeah, definitely, like, there are days when I'm not smiling, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, like, nobody's gonna be happy, positive vibes all the time. But it definitely like, there are days when I struggle, and that's, like, with every athlete, you're gonna have ups and downs, especially speaking of, like, from softball terms, like, softball is such a sport of failure. You go 4 for 10 on the field, and you're an All-American, Hall of Fame, but you go 4 for 10 on a quiz, and you're failing, like, that's
Right.
awful, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of days when I struggled or when I had to learn how to deal with my failure. So I don't sometimes when I'm like, yes, I'm laughing, I'm smiling, it's just kind of in my head, I might not be all happy and smiling in my head, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a strikeout and I'll go back to the dugout laughing because I'm just like, why did I swing at that? Right. But I'm definitely in my head. It's not always like sunshine and butterflies all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great point to vocalize because it also makes me think of obviously on Instagram, like you're going to post the pictures that you look cute in and that you're
Mhm.
smiling in, not ugly cry picture or, a picture where you're like deep in thought. So that's also something that I think is important for people to realize too, especially if it's young athletes, even now, seeing all the super fun and cool things that collegiate and pro athletes are experiencing. You hear it all the time, but social media is such a highlight reel of the positive things that are happening in people's lives. It's not videoed and it's not vlogged when you're coming into the locker room after a really shitty practice or shitty game and you're just like crying or, talking bad to yourself, whatever it might be, like those really stressful times are rarely and if ever documented. So it's always good to take into consideration, like, yes, we're seeing a little glimpse of these athletes' lives, including yours, but that doesn't mean that's their full truth, which is, and I think it's an important thing to have to distinguish nowadays for sure.
100%. Yeah.
How do you feel like you balanced being that positive type of leader? And then when you did have your days where you said, you weren't feeling on top of your game, how did you balance those two things? Because I know as a positive leader, which I feel like I definitely had a Morgan side of me I mean, honestly, I would say a big part of it was we could relate on that aspect of the part that people see of you, like the positivity, the good energy. I know that for me, I felt like I was dependent a lot on for that when that was definitely not what was going on inside my head. So whether it was fake, I don't even know how I did it looking back now, but I know that I had to be that positive leader type of role, but I was dealing with my own shit and that was really hard. How do you feel like you were able to balance those two things?
Yeah. So, kind of mentioned this earlier too. Like, it all came back to my support system. When I was struggling, I learned through many ups and downs that like being internal with my struggles did not help me. It did, like, so being able to talk to people, talk to your teammates, talk to your coaches, just like, hey, I'm struggling. Like, I think I need help. Like, that's normal and that's okay to ask for help. And it's like, people want to be there, especially as like us athletes, like people want to support us, they want to like see us strive. So becoming a positive leader, like, yes, I'm trying to lead my teammates, but I can also fall back on my teammates and ask them to help me be the leader that I want to be. So definitely just using your support system, like I just like hammer that down, use
Yeah.
your support system.
Have those people in your favorites list, like
Yeah.
get it, whether it's your parents, siblings, friends from home, whatever it is. And I feel like it's important to, and I don't know if you felt like this too, but having the people outside of your teammates too and your coaches as a support system, because just kind of like everyone needs a break from everything that whatever environment they're in. So being able to rely on people that are outside of your day to day to call and to kind of get a little refresher from that are not in it with you. I think that's an important thing to mention. And also, what you said about reaching out for help as a leader, I see that as so much strength too. I know that for me, I was in therapy and I was very open about it with my teammates. And I think that really created a dialogue of, she's in therapy, like that's okay to be in, or it's okay to ask someone for help. It's okay to talk about your struggles because in that point, you're kind of leading by example. And that's a really powerful example to show to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I love
agree.
that. I love that. Okay, so you mentioned softball being a game of failures, and I have always, 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 always wanted to know what it was like for softball players, baseball players to like walk up at bat, like what is going through your head at that time? Because from the outside, like I don't know if I'm just projecting my anxieties, but it seems like a very, very anxious thing to do, or anxiety inducing thing to do. So what is it like for you and what's going through your head at those moments?
Yeah. Well, every at bat probably changes, right? But it is. It is a lot of anxiety. Honestly, it feels like it's 1 against 9, like that. And it's a tough position to be in, right? But one thing that I learned that really helps me is just like the constant positive self talk, because our minds and like the way we think can like truly reflect on the outcome, right? So being on deck and just being like, okay, my at bat's about to come up. Like it could be the biggest at bat of my career, right? And I just have to keep reminding myself, like, I've put in the hours, I've put in practice. Like I show up and get better every day. I'm made for this moment. So it's definitely tough, like standing in the box. There are some at bats I can like feel myself shaking, right? And I'm like, okay, Morgan, calm down, calm down. Everything's okay. But just trying to keep my head away from negative thoughts, because that's when things start to go downhill really quickly. And then also, something that helps me a lot was I would always say this. Somebody taught me this, told me this. I think it was my sophomore year in college. Like, I struck out. I was really upset about it. And they were like, not your first and probably won't be your last. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. Like, it's going to probably happen again. It might happen the next at bat. Who knows, right? But I play a team sport. So knowing if I strike out this at bat, I have somebody behind me that I'm hopeful that they can do, like they can pick me up and they can do what I couldn't do. So just being able to rely on my team also, like knowing if I don't get it done, my team will, or if like we don't score this inning, we'll have good defense. So just remembering that it, like a game doesn't come down to one specific at bat or one specific moment.
Yeah, that is so beautiful, everything you just said. And it
Thanks.
makes me genuinely think like if you don't have a strong mindset, you probably can't play football or baseball because it is
It's a
so like
different sport.
no, actually. And I mean, I've never played either softball or baseball, so I'm not speaking from any sort of evidence or anything, but just literally given what you've said, because it's, I would say, a more slow-paced game, right? Than I guess basketball. I'm comparing it to basketball in my mind. So in basketball, obviously you want to have a strong mindset, but it's more of like you almost don't even have time to think in a way. Whereas in softball, it sounds like you have all the time in the world to think. And if you're not filling your brain with self-affirming thoughts or positive thinking, whatever it might be, that just seems like a really, really tough experience to have. Was mindset training and the mental aspect of the game something that you learned to master on your own, or is that talked about within the training when you're a young softball player?
Yeah, I truly think it's a little bit of both, right? When you're younger, I feel like I didn't really get as much coaching in that aspect, and maybe it's just because like we're kids, right? It'll be fine. And when we got to college, we would read books about like mindset and mental health and like overcoming failure, stuff like that. But something like it's definitely not like my positive mindset, for example, is definitely not something that I just like woke up and was like, yep, it's a switch I'm just gonna flip, right? But something like more personal about me, non-sport related, is when I was in middle school, my aunt, who was like my second mom, actually committed suicide. So that was really hard for my family and I to get over. And it's still hard to think about at times, but I think that was like kind of a big turning point in my life of just taking like recognizing how grateful we are for what we have and everything. And one of my favorite sayings that I learned that kind of came through that whole experience was the sun will rise again.
Mm.
So just like remembering every day that no matter how tough the day may feel or no matter how bad a game might be, like tomorrow's a new day, the sun will rise again. and it's just like taking it day by day. It's kind of something that I learned throughout that experience. Yeah.
That is so wonderful to share because I think going through a loss like that is definitely perspective shifting because it makes you be a little bit more intentional about everything that you do personally, like in your daily life, the way that you view relationships, the way that you view other people and the struggles that they might be going through and aren't talking about. So it's really, really insightful to hear the pieces that you learn from that and were able to incorporate not only in your sport, but in your life in general. And that's such a strength. And also, I feel like having something like that too is kind of an extra form of motivation almost to carry with you throughout a sport or, a job or anything that might be anxiety inducing. Like you have that, whether it feels little or big to you, that extra like boost to get you through whatever it might be that you're going through.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. And I feel like I'm asking so many people their little hacks about being like a softball parent sibling or baseball parent sibling because my little brother is starting to play baseball and my dad is his coach. My dad loves baseball. That was like his first love before basketball. But I never played, so I have no idea what it's like. But everything that you just said to me, obviously I'm mentally like aware for him and his athletic future that's coming. The technical and like the skills and everything that goes along with baseball. But everything that you just said makes me realize how important it is for me to kind of make him aware of that stuff from an early age too. I mean, right now, thankfully, they're like, talking about whatever in the dugout and whatever it is. So those thoughts aren't coming to him. But when they do, I feel like that's going to be really important to be able to teach him. So thank you for providing that insight to me and hopefully other people listening too, dealing with that. Okay, so I know in college, something that was really important to you was making the most of your athletic journey and taking on every opportunity that you could that athletics presented you with. So, for example, joining the basketball team when that probably was not on your radar at all, committing to LMU as a softball player, but
Not at all.
But like we talked about, just was such a cool experience for you and created new connections and new opportunities. But what were some other things that you feel like athletics gave you the opportunity to, jump into and learn more about?
Yeah. Wow. So many things, right? I'm like, what are we talking about
Yeah.
first? Definitely like growing my I'm gonna say like support system again, but like my
Okay.
community, I guess, like in
Yeah.
my who I am. But something that also came to mind was I was a strength and conditioning intern for our sports performance department at Loyola Marymount. And that like truly changed my perspective on our strength and conditioning coaches. Like it made me respect our staff so much more because my perspective of being an athlete, it was just like, here's your 4-week training block, like go get it, right? No, there was so much research and so much thought that goes into like preparing us for season and the reason why we do things. And I truly wish that every athlete could get that type of education on like our coaches were doing this because of this, I'm preparing you for season doing this and it's like you're going to use this as recovery. And it was just like amazing to learn all that. And also, like learning softball, for example, our pitchers would kind of do a different workout than me as a position player. Like, you don't realize how much effort goes into it like that.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting to learn about. And I'm like super grateful I got that opportunity to do that. And then also like transferring, I transferred, you mentioned that earlier. I transferred to my 5th year to Minnesota, and that was definitely a different opportunity. Los Angeles to Minneapolis,
Yeah.
very different. Culture, weather, everything super different.
And even the like size of the school, right?
Yeah, it was a big state school. Yeah,
LMU was probably the size of like a classroom there.
probably, right? But something like the main reason why I ended up transferring, it was really hard for me to leave LMU. I loved LMU. I loved the community, my education, like the location. I was at the beach all the time, right? I just realized that like my COVID year was something I was granted in a way, and I wanted to make the most of it, and I just wanted to experience something different, which is why Minnesota was kind of the place I chose. I felt very welcomed when I was there or when I was on my visit, so it kind of just like spoke to me in a way. But definitely, like, I got to play in the Big Ten. I got to go to a big state school. I got to watch football for once and be a
Yeah.
student.
Oh my gosh.
That was so crazy to me. So just, yeah.
That's awesome. I think being able to take advantage of that opportunity, like you said, that you were presented with the COVID year is, you can view it and go down whatever route you want with it. I didn't take my COVID year. There's people who stay at their school, break records because of the fifth year there.
Yeah.
And people like you who then transfer because it's like, okay, I've been in this environment for 4 years and wanting to expand. You're also older at that time, so feeling maybe more confident in your development, like as a human, as an athlete, as a student, and just wanting to take that into a new environment. And I think it provides so much opportunity for growth. Do you feel like like having 1 year at Minnesota was enough? Or would you, given the two different experiences, like, would you have wanted more of that type of experience?
That's funny because people ask me that sometimes, like, "Oh, do you wish you would have transferred here sooner?" Or
Yeah.
"Do you wish you would have like done your undergrad here and whatnot?" But I always say no, just because like I loved my 4 years at LMU, and I can't really think of anything different. Like spending my undergrad and then going for 1 year, yes, I would have loved to play for more years there. Like I loved my time there, but it was also like I knew it was my 1 year. I knew it was my last year, and I was very content leaving LMU after my 4 years and getting my degree that I definitely like wouldn't want to change my experience or
Yeah.
anything. And they were two very different schools, right? I feel like, and I tell people this, I feel like if I would have gone to Minnesota for my undergrad, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much because
Yeah.
it's a little chilly there.
Yeah.
1 year was great. One cold year I could do.
That's a good point.
Being like young and in Los Angeles, like going to college, it was like a great experience. So I'm really glad that it worked out the way it worked out.
Yeah. It reminds me of people are like overstaying their welcome at like a house, or
Yeah.
the thing that comes to mind is like when you leave the party at the right time, or like I should have, like it sounds like you left the party at the right time. Like you had a really good time. You didn't overstay your welcome. There wasn't anything that was like super horrible that happened. You were there, served its purpose, and then you went on and you had another, great year just to kind of top it off, like the little cherry on top. And it sounds like overall just you had such great opportunities. You took them when you felt like you could and when you were passionate about them. And with everything that you shared with us today, if you could go back to your younger self and tell yourself something at any time in your athletic career, what do you think that would be?
Yeah. I guess the main thing that I would want to tell myself is like your comfort zone will always feel safe to you,
Yeah.
but like the most growth happens when you step beyond your comfort zone, which I feel like I did throughout my like career and my college career, but there was probably times I could have done more, right? And it's hard. It's really hard to step out of your comfort zone and do something, or like even if you feel like it might be goofy, just do it, because you never know what's going to come out of it. You never know like how you're going to grow. And just like being pushed beyond my comfort zone in sports, like it helped me like improve my teamwork and refine my skills, and it helped me understand the value of perseverance. So there's just so many good things that can come out of stepping beyond your little bubble, your little comfort zone. So that's definitely one thing I would tell myself, and I like still tell young athletes, like just do it.
I love that. I love the visualization of like the comfort zone and the growth zone. And I remember that's something that my dad literally drew out for me one day in high school. And I wasn't the best at going out of my comfort zone, but as athletes, we had to do that.
It's
So I
hard. Yeah, it's
It's
hard.
so hard. And I think that's awesome advice to give to not only your younger self, but also younger athletes that are going through it right now. So thank you so much, Morgan, for all of your insight and sharing your story with us today. You're always so fun to talk to, and I'm glad we got to catch up a little bit.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's session in the Mental Training Room. If you found value in this episode, make sure to subscribe to our show, share it with a teammate, friend, parent, or anyone you think would benefit from listening, and follow us on Instagram at mtr.pod.
We'll catch you next time inside the Mental Training Room. If you are currently experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 for emergency support.